Well, hello world. It is I, the Mystic Philosopher. And of course, you are once again tuned to the right number, the Mystic Philosopher. Let me also welcome you to another of my video presentations in the series titled The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. This presentation is titled A Picture or an Image is Worth More Than 1,000 Words, Part 2. It is the continuation of my response to the YouTube video titled What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People? If you haven't yet watched or listened to my critique and analysis of his sermon in my earlier video titled A Response to What Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People, I ask that you please do so now or at your earliest convenience. By doing so, you will get a much better understanding of this video and those that will follow. And if you haven't watched part 1 of this presentation titled A Picture or an Image is Worth More Than 1,000 Words, part 1, I strongly recommend that you do so as well. If this is the first time that you might be watching or listening to any of my YouTube videos, I ask that you please check out all the rest of my videos that are here on this my channel called The Right Number, the Mystic Philosopher. I can almost guarantee you that if you are honestly interested in getting another perspective on many topics, some of which you might have just taken for granted and some of which you might not even seriously thought about by yourself, then here is the channel that you want to be tuned to. You are at the right place. In this presentation and those that will follow, I will continue to decode, critique, analyze, evaluate, and comment on most, and if time permits, possible all of the still images that are in the YouTube video titled What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People? So let me begin by reminding you of the old adage which states that, and I quote, a picture is worth 1,000 words, unquote. But I will take the liberty and say that a picture is worth much more than 1,000 words. The third image that you will notice in the video titled What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People, and the image that is now on your screen, this image is from that video. So this is what I call the third image that you will notice is that of a white banner. Right now you should be seeing on your screen a white banner with a written message that said Stop Black on Black Violence. So I call this the third picture. Now, for most people, or for most of you, that is all you will consciously see, or that is all you may consciously see. You see a sign that said, or a banner that say Stop Black on Black Violence. And you might not even think of the real message and messages that this sign, this to most of you, this innocent looking banner is designed to send and to imprint on your subconscious mind message or messages that would need much more than 1,000 words written or spoken to be delivered. So now that you may agree that this still image and this banner is designed and is well intent on transmitting subtle and complex ideas to our unsuspecting minds, let us give it some attention. Join me in giving it some attention. Let us see if we can decode it. Number one, the white background or white banner is not a coincidence. It's not an accident or that it just happened by chance. No. Not from my perspective as the Mystic Philosopher. It is indicative, the white background or the white banner is indicative of purity. It is indicative of power, superiority, that which is unblemished, indicative of goodness, light. And it is also deceptively, and that it is also hereby deceptively used to represent those who called themselves white or white people. 2. For all intents and purposes at this time, let us ignore the fact that the red background on which the word or command or the command stop is written in white appears to be an octagon. Let us, for all intents and purposes, ignore that fact. Meaning, it appears to be a two-dimensional shaped or sign, or a two-dimensional sign that most people would quickly or on the surface conclude that a stop sign or that this stop sign is an octagon consisting of 8 sides or 8 faces, depends on how you look at it. Let us ignore that fact, but I just have to mention it for those who may want to look deeper into it. Let us also ignore the fact, or at the very least the possibility, that this stop sign and a stop sign is not a two-dimensional or an octagon, but that it is a 3-dimensional sign, and as such it has at least 10 faces or 10 sides. But we can ignore that for now. For all intents and purposes, let us also ignore the fact, or at the very least let us ignore the possibility, that there are much more hidden facts, or that the possibility does exist, that there may be much more hidden facts in all of this than that which readily meets the eyes. Let us again remember, a picture is worth much more than 1,000 words. The red background stop sign is indicative of danger. That's the red background beyond the stop. It is indicative of danger. Red, as we know, is indicative of danger. I doubt anyone would disagree with that. Note also that a stop sign is not just a warning sign. It is a command that is ordering you to come to a complete or halt or a complete full stop before you can or before you are permitted to proceed. The word stop, pay attention to the sign. The word stop written in white on the red stop sign represents authority and command. Remember, white is a symbol of authority. 4. The color red is also indicative of blood, or the spilling of blood, the taking of life. And blood is life, and blood is also a symbol of life. And just for your information, unlike what some fancy ad may tell you or might be telling us, and unlike the sacrifices that the politicians and others might want you to believe, blood is not in us, the natural native earthly humans, to give. Unlike what they might be telling you about, blood is in you to give. Blood is not in us, the natural native earthly humans now. It is not in us to give or to spill, but it is in us to live. Blood is in us to live. Number 5. The word violence, written in red, is indicative of the shedding of blood. Number 6. The words black on black, written in black, is indicative of a black people, an evil people, a people that is without any form of moral goodness. It is indicative, the word black and black here is indicative of a barbaric people, what is considered an uncivilized people. It is indicative of a disgraceful people, a threatening people, etc. It is indicative of a no good race of people that is committing evil acts upon themselves, shedding their own blood, and thereby causing blemish upon a white, pure and civilized society. In summary, the message that this sign is hereby, the message that this sign here in this, the preacher and his video makers, LP like Paul, propaganda video or message or video, is sending to the minds of first his convert, the preacher's converts, his believers and followers, and then to the world, is that the problem in his or in their deceptively and falsely called white society, or the problems in their civilized, falsely called white society, are the black people. And therefore, they can get rid of the problem, the black people. If they can get rid of the problem, the black people, then they will have a pure society. Remember, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. So get rid of the black people. You'll have a pure society, a sinless society, a righteous society, a God-fearing society, and a white society. Now, think about this for a moment. Please just think about the destructive. Let us just think about the destructive impact that this sign can have, and that this sign is having on the innocent minds of our children. Not even to mention the minds of most of our adults that are, from my perspective, much too far gone to be rescued, to be redeemed from the curse of the black spell. They have to be born again, literally, to be redeemed from that curse. From my perspective, our children are the only assets and our only hope that we, the natural native earthly humans, especially those of us that are highly blessed with carbon skin, highly gifted with melanin and carbon skin, Our children are the only things, only asset and hope we have left. Now, please let me just quickly read to you 2 quotes from an article called "The Most Delicate Period of Life." This is an article that I read online and found and read online. And I quote number 1. It said, and I quote, "The most delicate and crucial period of life is the childhood. The foundation for the future personality of the individual is established at this time. The slightest neglect might cause irreparable harm to the child's future personality and temperament. In fact, the first 3 years of the child's life play a very crucial role in the metamorphosis of its personality and character." Unquote. Quote number 2. "In this early 3 years period, the child picks up several hundred words and get acquainted with their meanings. It will start distinguishing between good and bad, friendship and enmity, pretty and ugly, small and big. It will also get the faculty of identifying different colors, the taste of foods. It develops the faculty of observation and speech. It starts showing rudiments of the thought process. It learns to crawl and walk. It will learn to laugh and cry. During this 3 years period, there will be thousands of events that might affect the psyche of the child and have a bearing on its future temperament." Unquote. Having learned this, if you accept this as a fact, now my question to you is this: if you teach a child and have him or her believe and think that he or she is black, that he or she is a black child, and that he or she belongs to a black race, etc., and later, as soon as that child has the ability and sensibility and sensitivity to recognize and distinguish between signs, symbols, and colors, etc., how do you think this child will see, feel, and think of him or herself after looking at this sign? Remember, a picture is worth much more than 1,000 words. He or she would have no alternative but to think of him or herself, him or her family, him or her race, to think of him or her community as being the cause of society's ills. There is no way he or she could look on this sign and think of him or herself, him or her people and community or race as being great, as being an asset to the society in which he or she lives. And I can hereby assure you that the only people that would look at this banner in this preacher and his video maker's propaganda video and say otherwise are the preacher himself and his converts and followers. So now that you know, is there any reason or any other reason for us to continue wondering why it is or what it is, why it is that some of our children, if not most of our children, are so ashamed of themselves, ashamed of their appearance, ashamed of their natural hair, ashamed of themselves to the point that they hate themselves, ashamed of themselves to the point that they now hate each other, ashamed of themselves to the point that they are literally killing each other, ashamed of themselves to the point that some are bleaching their skin with chemicals that are made by our enemies just to look like them, just to look like their pale and melanin carbon deficient skin. Look like they're oppressors, melanin and carbon deficient oppressors. So now that you know, is there any other reason for us to continue wondering why it is that some, if not most, of our children are so ashamed of themselves to the point that they are openly denying their source, openly denying their ancestors, denying their story, openly denying their heritage and their culture, ashamed of themselves to the point that some don't even want to date within their own people's race, or within their own people, or within their own race. Some don't even want to be seen holding hands with their own people or with their own race. Some don't even want to cohabit anymore, let alone marry their own, or marry within their own people or within their own race anymore. Is there any wonder why they hate themselves, their features and all? Now, if this one sign or this one banner in this preacher's and his video maker's propaganda video can have such destructive, demoralizing, and dehumanizing effects on the conscious and subconscious minds of our youths, our children, can you now imagine what signs and banners like these have done to us and have been doing to us, the descendants of the victims of the Black Caucasians transatlantic slave trade that made it to adulthood in this, the Black Caucasian racist society? Can you imagine what signs and banners like these have done to those of us who have endured covert mind invasion, covert mental and psychological abuses, and put down all of our lives? And that is why when one of my own get angry at me for exposing propaganda videos like this, and in their ignorance some try to attack me via this or other media or medium, in their misguided defense of their pale skinned Black Caucasian masters, preachers, saviors, prophets and gods, I sometimes ask my ancestors to forgive them, for they really and truly don't know what they are doing or what they do. So this sign, this banner in this preacher's propaganda sermon video, is no oversight or accident or an accident. It is his working through his video maker, his convert, deliberate attempt at putting down my ancestors and my people. And as it has always been the custom of the Black Caucasians, by using one of our own, one from among our own people to do it. You always use one of us to do the dirty work and stay behind the scene and laugh. But in the name of the ancestors, these things have to stop. My ancestors approve of these facts. However, the plain and unadulterated truth that this mankind preacher, Jesse Duplantis, because of his true nature, cannot tell you and the rest of the world what he would not tell you and is not telling you in this or any other of his sermon or videos, is that if the shedding of my people's blood the people that he so intentionally and with disdain call the black people, if the shedding of their blood was not huge mega business, and that if his people, the black Caucasians, were not benefiting and profiting from the spilling and shedding of the blood of my people, both past, present, and into the future, then there would be no so-called black on black violence anywhere on the planet Earth. If there were no money to be made, what this preacher won't tell is that if there were no money to be made by him and his people, then there would be no propaganda sermon or videos like this, like his, like the one I'm commenting on, his video. What did Jesse Duplantis say about black people? Yes, if there were no profit to be made from the shedding of my people's blood, then there would be no quote-unquote black on black violence. If there were no monetary profits to be made at the shedding of my people's blood and their miseries, the killings would stop immediately. If there were, what the scripture won't tell is that if there were no societal status and power status to be gained and maintained by he and his people, the black Caucasians, that are lying and deceptively presenting themselves as being white people, as being the white ones, as being the pure ones, the good ones, the non-violent ones, the non-violent people, as being the morally superior people, etc. I put it to you that if there were no societal status and power status to be gained or maintained by them from the shedding of my people's blood, then there would be no quote-unquote black on black violence. The plain and unadulterated truth, or truths, that this mankind preacher, because of his true nature, cannot tell you or anyone, and would not tell you, is that if his people, the black Caucasians, or at the very least, if the elites from among his people were not inventing, designing, manufacturing, producing, selling, and distributing all forms of weapons of mass destructions, such as guns and ammunitions, and making them as accessible through their both legal and illegal arms trade, home and abroad, to my people, some of whom can't even read and write or spell gun or ammunition, let alone manufacture them. What this preacher won't tell you or tell the world is that if his people were not doing these things in the name of their religion, in the name of their science, their so-called progress, politics, economics, profits and capitalism, you name it, and all other forms of isms, that there would be none of that which he called black on black violence. And definitely killings among my people would stop. If he was a true preacher whose intent on bringing good news to my people and saving my people from the evils that his own people have brought upon us, that is what he would be preaching to his people, not to us, to his people, to stop profiting from the blood of my people. If he was a good preacher, if he was any good. What this humankind preacher would not tell you is that if he and his Caucasian people own and control religio-political pyramid twin system, the morgues, the funeral homes, the cemeteries, the hospitals, the healthcare centers, the legal systems and practices, the courts, their prisons, their security forces, their pharmaceutical empires, etc. You name it. If they were not profiting from the shedding, of my people's blood, there would be no so-called black and black violence. The evidence will show that the people that this preacher and this system called the black people are not the ones that are benefiting from the so-called black and black violence. The evidence will show, and the evidence has shown, and even the blind can see that my people, the people that he called the black people, are victims at the hands of his people, the real and true black Caucasians. So tell the preacher of a back way. Tell him to back way. For him can preach and fool some of my people some of the time, but can't preach and fool all of my people all of the time. And the ancestors will take care of him in time. My ancestors. This is the end of my commentary on this image or this banner called Stop Black on Black Violence. Alright, Stop Black on Black Violence, yes. So please join me in my next soon to be uploaded video where I will continue to decode, expose and comment on hidden messages in another image or picture from the preachers and his video maker's propaganda video against my people, titled "What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People?" I am the Mystic Philosopher, and my ancestors approve this message.